I'm going to give you a very simple remedy involving only 1 teaspoon every single day to get rid of your chronic sinus infection. And it can be more of a candida infection or a fungal infection called aspergillus, which is the most common type of fungus that could be growing in the sinuses. So if you have a runny nose or even a loss of smell, which can definitely affect your taste. In fact, 80% of your taste comes from your smell. But the worst thing that people do that aggravates this condition is that they take an antibiotic. An antibiotic only kills bacteria. And when you get rid of the bacteria, you actually cause an overgrowth of this fungus. So maybe it started out to be some type of bacterial infection, but now it's switched to a fungal infection that is very difficult to kill with the typical antibiotic. And so people keep getting antibiotics over and over as this problem gets worse and worse. They take the antihistamines. They take these corticosteroids, which get rid of inflammation, but it makes it worse. It kind of invades the back of the eustachian tube into the inner ear, and now they have inner ear infections. And then there's 2 types of fungus. There's an invasive fungus, and there's a non-invasive fungus. The invasive fungus starts to break down the mucosal layer or lining on the inside of your sinus cavities, and it can start to erode the bone. So it can actually penetrate right into different tissues around your skull. From there, it can invade the joints, your bladder, and create a UTI. So there's some really important things you need to know about aspergillus. It needs oxygen to grow. It needs moisture to grow. And it'll definitely grow more if your immune system is compromised. So if you're a diabetic, if you have HIV, it can really kind of come out and kick you when you're down. And also you can actually reproduce this aspergillus and make it grow in a little petri dish if you feed it sugar or starch. And this is why you see this fungus growing on like bread and potatoes, rice, things like that, because it lives on sugar and starches, which means that you probably need to change your diet. And this also includes dairy because there's milk sugar in dairy as well, and they will just thrive on that. So we get sugar, refined carbs, alcohol, and even birth control pills can make it grow more. Aspergillus has a unique strategy of surviving by shutting down your immune system through downgrading your vitamin D levels. So it goes into your receptors for vitamin D, exactly where you utilize vitamin D, and it downgrades them. Very sneaky, to the point where you can't get enough vitamin D. And apparently it knows that vitamin D is essential for your immune system. And if you can't get enough vitamin D, you don't have a good immune system. The most important thing to know is that you need to take a lot of vitamin D. Okay, 30,000 IUs. Make sure you're also taking 300 micrograms of vitamin K2 just to kind of keep the calcium normalized in your blood, because vitamin K2 offsets the spike in calcium from the vitamin D. What would be the key remedy to get rid of this fungal systemic problem? Number 1, garlic oil. Okay, garlic oil greatly inhibits fungus, yeast, and mold, not to mention bacteria as well. You're just going to take 5 drops of garlic oil in a teaspoon. You want to also get some oregano oil. Okay, that's another powerful antifungal, anti-candida, anti-yeast. Okay, 5 drops of oregano oil. Then make up the difference with coconut oil. Coconut oil has both lauric acid and caprylic acid. Both of those are antifungal, and they strengthen your immune system. And you're going to do 1 teaspoon of this every single day over a period of about a month, because it's going to slowly get into your body and start to balance out the microorganisms. You can also do other things too. If you wanted to add xylitol to this mixture, you can do that. Curcumin is another one that you can always add, and aloe vera is another thing you can add. You can also do other blue light wand. If you have a blue light, you can even take one of these wands, there's small little wands, and put it up your sinuses and for a few minutes a day, and that can help. The problem is I have not located one yet. Maybe you can search one and find one, but blue light or violet light therapy would be really good for that condition. If you had surgery on your sinuses, okay, and there's damage in the mucosal layer, you want to get the red light therapy, sinus therapy. And they have these little devices that you can put up into your sinuses and help this condition using the infrared light, which is more of a different spectrum. It's not as much of a microbe killer as it is a healer of the mucous membranes and the damage that occurred from the surgery. However, you might find that you start breathing a lot better because it can get rid of inflammation. Now, there's a lot more to know about the sinuses. If you have not seen my other video on sinus congestion, check it out. I put it up right here. As you know, I'm really into natural remedies that don't have side effects. So when you have your sinus congested and you want a good way to drain it, I'm going to show you several different natural solutions that I think can help you. Now, when I was in practice, the thing that I used a lot was Spanish black radish. This is a really good one, and you can get them in supplements. You can also find them sometimes at the health food store, and then you can start using them in your salads and things like that. But if you get them in a tablet form, okay, I would recommend taking about 3 per hour, maybe even more, okay, depending on how bad it is, every hour for about 8 hours. Because Spanish black radish is unique in that it can help pull mucus from the deeper areas of your sinuses, and then just it pulls it out. You know, I was always interested in experimenting on myself. And so one time, because this works so well, I wanted to take it to the next level, which I don't recommend this. I juiced daikon radishes, and it's those white radishes, very spicy. I juiced about, I don't know, 12 to 13 ounces. And I plugged my nose and I slugged it down. And then as I realized what was happening, burning all the way through from one end to the other, I think that was a big mistake because that was just an overload. But I will say, I had clear sinuses for about 2 or 3 weeks. Another good remedy would be black seed oil. Black seed oil as a remedy is very antimicrobial. Most sinus infections are viral, not bacterial. There is a bacterial component, but they're either viral or fungal, especially if they're chronic. Like all year round, you have this sinus congestion, in which black seed oil is a really good remedy. It's not just antibacterial, it's antifungal, as well as antiviral, okay? And you'd want to take this on a regular basis. And so whatever it says as far as the dosage, I would triple it, okay? You get that in your body, and so the microbes just can't keep surviving. So these two remedies handle more on a systemic level, okay? Now, topically, okay? So kimchi is a very unique fermented food that has a lot of benefits for sinus infections, because in most sinus infections, the person is lacking a certain microbe, which happens to be in kimchi. So this is why when someone has a sinus infection and they get an antibiotic and they get no change, or they get a worse situation, it's because they're killing off the friendly bacteria. So we don't just have a pathogen in our sinuses. We have a lot of friendly bacteria that you have to sometimes put back in and not neglect, because that's what's protecting us. You may have an overgrowth of yeast or fungus because you don't have enough of the good guys. So the way that you apply kimchi is you buy some kimchi, and so then you take some of the juice out of it, just a little bit, okay, on your fingertip, and you apply that to the inside of your nose about, I'd say, no more than 1/4 of an inch inside each nostril, okay? You don't want to put it all the way up there. You just want to put it on the inner part, and the microbes will start to climb up and go up into your sinuses. So it does take a few days, but that's the way to apply this. It's a really good remedy for sinus. Some people can buy it in a powder and they apply it, or some people buy it as supplements. But if you buy a really good quality kimchi and you can use that, keep it in the fridge. Make sure you seal it tightly, because the microbes, if it's leaking air, for example, they won't last as long. So kimchi is a good remedy. All right, number 4, a good nasal rinse with saline solution. You can get a kit, even at the drugstore, with the saline solution, but here is the secret. You're going to add colloidal silver to this solution. And I recommend kind of dumping out some of the saline solution and replacing it with the mixture of 1/4 of a teaspoon to 1/2 of a cup of water. Okay, so as far as the amount of colloidal silver, we're not doing 1/2 a cup, we're just doing 1/4 of a teaspoon, and you can just measure that out. And then mix that into the saline solution. Now, why colloidal silver? Colloidal silver is hands down one of the best antiviral, antifungal remedies that I know of. It's great for ear problems, which can then clear out a blocked eustachian tube. It's great for so many things, especially for kids, but it's really good for sinus problems. And then if you also add, the kimchi with that, because this kills microbes. It's not going to kill the good guys though. So that's cool. So this nasal rinse, make sure it's at room temperature. Make sure it's not too hot or too cold. You want to tilt your head down and to the side like this. So you're going to be spraying it to one nostril. It's going to drain out the lower nostril. And then if you don't have your head down far enough, it could come out your throat. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to irrigate with this special solution, okay, salty water with colloidal silver, through one sinus and then go through the other. So it's a really good way to expose these sinuses to a good anti-mucal compound. So really, I would do this a few times a day for several days until you resolve this problem. Now, one last point I want to make about sinus problems, especially if it's fungal. Chances are your diet has too many carbs. These microbes, the fungus, the candida, live on a high carb diet. So unless you change that, you may get relief, but it might come back. If you have not seen this video on candida, which is a type of fungus, in relationship to sugar, I put that up right here. Check it out.